But there is still more work to do. And so what I keep trying to focus the organization on, in cooperation with a lot of groups that you've actually had on your show, is what is the total need and how do we all help each other get there, right? It's not just going to be us. We play a major part of it, but how do we cooperate with everyone to make sure food is getting to where it's needed?
Joined now by the president and CEO of the Freestore Foodbank. Just in this role, it still has that new CEO smell on the inside of the office, right?
That may just be me, but yeah.
Craig Cassee, thank you very much for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Thrilled to be here. Thanks for getting the message out.
Yeah, well, it's my pleasure. I have a tremendous amount of respect for your nonprofit specifically. I really think it is. I think it is maybe the nonprofit. Not that it's a competition, but like just the idea of feeding families and the work and the scale that which you guys do it, all the different programs. I really respect what you guys do. And in terms of the scale, you know, you guys are a food organization, but you're really also a logistics operation.
Absolutely.
And talk about what, like having that as a focus instead of just, you know, counting apples and meals for people.
Yeah, sure. And I think it's the markets that you described earlier really are kind of what people think of or what they see, right? Because that's where they would experience it, a lot of folks. But we deliver to the 600 locations through these 20 counties you talked about. And it's complicated, right? But that's what we're doing. It's a major logistics operation. I think, you know, we may get into this later, but that's why I think I'm here a lot. I've got a long supply chain history, and that's really what we're trying to do, get to food where it's needed.
Well, and, you know, again, you sort of being new in the driver's seat here, the team that executes this kind of an operation with the size of that new place and the number of pantries you're supporting and the different intakes that you're getting as far as donations go and everything else, it's got to be a pretty monstrous organization. Not monstrous, but like it's got to be a well-oiled machine.
Yes, and very responsible with our donors' dollars. But we have about 140 full-time employees, split kind of between that folks doing the programs, folks doing logistics and getting things out, the warehouse team, et cetera, and then the workforce development that you talked about before, Cincinnati cooks and lifts. So it is big. And then we also depend on, we had last year 12,000 different volunteers spent at least one day with us, right? And so more than 80,000 hours of volunteer service, which is really what it takes to get all the work done. And it's complicated, right? And we're working with pantries that are not sort of open every day. So you're trying to manage, you know, when they're open, when the one near them is open, how do we do it all? So it's complicated, but it's a job we're thrilled to do. And, you know, some days we wish folks didn't need our help, but we're happy to do it when we can.
Well, that's something I wanted to ask you. Like 47 million meals on that last impact report. By all signs, demand is growing.
Yeah.
Does it feel like this is just such an uphill battle that like an endless struggle, or is it even about not even thinking about, we're not trying to get to an end, we're just trying to help bridge a gap?
Well, I think, you know, I still have the new CEO smell, so maybe I'm not feeling that way yet. But I do think there's days when, you know, it feels like, hey, no matter how much you do, there's more to do. And so I work with the team quite a bit to talk about, hey, let's remember how far we've come and all the great things we're doing for folks. And we get a lot of positive feedback, right? Folks come in every day and, you know, thank us and are appreciative of what we're doing. And it's funny, we had a group in last week that they came in, they put volunteer hours, gave us a check, and then thanked me for the opportunity to do it, right? Which is amazing. The community is so supportive. But I think it's, you know, we talk about the 47 million meals we do, which is amazing. And I think somebody told me if you put all those trucks together, it would fill up Paycor Stadium or some number like that, right? But there is still more work to do. And so what I keep trying to focus the organization on, in cooperation with a lot of groups that you've actually had on your show, is what is the total need and how do we all help each other get there, right? It's not just going to be us. We play a major part of it, but how do we cooperate with everyone to make sure food is getting to where it's needed? Yeah,
you're living in the world and you're sort of having to take that zoomed out view and then position the pieces on the board. Not to put you on the spot since things are relatively new, but I mean, what is your take on like the state of food insecurity in this area? Is it growing? Are there, I don't know, bright spots? Are there signs of hope? I don't know what kind of a question to ask about that.
Yeah, no, that's fair. So, you know, I think that, like I said before, it's, you know, we wish folks weren't facing food insecurity or hunger, right? Nobody wants to go hungry, and certainly every family deserves a nutritious meal, and we're trying to get there, right? And so I think there's great signs of hope from the fact that the community is really supportive, that we have all these great nonprofits working together to get to improve the situation. I think the challenge would be, we talked about the impact report you put up on the list. Or on the screen. We're about to have a new one come out.
Oh yeah,
and it's going to show that we've gone from 274,000 residents in these 20 counties food insecure to 292,000.
Wow.
From 80,000 children to 91,000 children. So the challenges are getting a little broader, and certainly for us, and not to get political, but changes in SNAP have meant SNAP has been reduced for folks, and so we don't take SNAP, but when folks don't have other dollars to get food, they're going to come to us, right? So we're seeing higher demand. We're glad to put all the effort in to help meet it, but there's a challenge there for sure.
Well, and certainly the challenge is being met on a number of fronts by your organization and the variety of programs that you guys have. We mentioned them in the Big Bite segment, all those different pantry options and the food as medicine stuff and the cooking school and all that. But a couple of things that are coming up soon. In 2 weeks, we've got Riverfest, which of course used to mean a big storage unit that dumped a bunch of yellow ducks into the river. We have evolved from that in recent years, but the Rubber Duck Regatta is coming up in 2 weeks, which means people can buy a duck to feed a child.
Yep. So a duck's $5, which is nice, right? So anybody can do that for us. Oh, there you go. Buy a duck, feed a child. You buy 5 ducks, you get a 6th one.
Yeah.
If you buy 25,
there's quack packs. There's a whole thing.
And you can get
right?
T-shirts and different things. But it's a great thing for the community. And I will tell you that we're disappointed it can't be in person because of the challenges with the Purple People Bridge. But we're dedicated to get back to it because it is quite an event. And I know people have loved it. Although, not to rat anybody out, I've been told by several people how they come and watch it every year. Well, we haven't done it for 3, so maybe not every year, but it's great. And the community support for it's amazing, and everybody can understand. Children don't deserve to be hungry, right?
Yeah, for sure. And it's such a good event. The availability. Talk about working with partners. Kroger having that. It's still the option. You can just buy it right at the checkout.
Plus, there's not anymore, but they're a big supporter, and there's other ways to do it. The best way to do it right now is to go to www.rubberduckregatta.org and you can buy it right online.
Yeah, sure. It's easier than ever just to be able to get the word out of something on social media. I pulled that little logo from, you guys are very active online.
Yep.
Getting the word out social media-wise, that's got to be a pretty big part of your marketing ideas, right?
For sure, right. And here, and we're going to 150, 200,000 ducks, right? It's a lot. So there's a lot of activity, and we get great support, and we're actively trying to push the message out to folks.
Yeah, for sure. So that's coming up in 2 weeks. But then in about 1 more week, you've got Taste of the Bengals, which, those are people that are familiar with using taste of something. We're used to that phrase. But so you've got, more than a dozen restaurants involved coming out for this. This is a big fundraiser for you guys.
Yeah, it's a big fundraiser. And the Bengals have been great supporters of ours for a long time. And so we really appreciate that. And this event, where actually 40 restaurants will be providing food. And many of the Bengal players will be there. For folks that have VIP tickets, and we don't have very many of those left, they get to give autographs and closer interactions with the players. And then there's a general session with the food and things like that, and really get a chance to hear the message from the Bengals and from us about what we're doing.
Yeah, that Taste of the Bengals thing, I was taking some notes on that. It's next week. It's at Paycor Stadium. Just a general admission ticket gets you in, and you get to eat your fill of everything.
Yep.
Restaurants like Mazunte are there.
Yep.
Coppins from Hotel Covington. These are a couple of my favorite places. And then there's Rheingeist, there's Raising Cane's, there's Jeff Ruby.
Yep.
It's
something for everyone.
You run the gamut on that. That's a tremendous fundraiser. Plus, then people can get in early for autograph options.
Yeah. Right, that's the VIP tickets, and so those are again online. You can get them. They're $500, so they're almost all gone. So act fast, I guess. But we're thrilled for the opportunity again. So appreciative of the Bengals players helping us out, right?
Yeah.
Don Reisner's the player host this year, so we're looking forward to talking to him. He's a great guy.
Yeah, for sure. No, and again, you mentioned all these different partners that you have between Kroger and all sorts of organizations and companies here in town. How has that been for you coming into being the CEO of this very large nonprofit? And did you have an understanding of I think it's a really unique environment here, the way the business community really, the role it plays in supporting all these nonprofits we have here in the city? Yeah,
well, I did have some experience with that. I was the chairman of the board of SORTA for several years, the bus system. So when the levy passed, and we had great community and business support for that. But I do say that it's when you go into a new business, it always seems simple until you try to do it yourself, kind of thing. And so impressed with the support we get from the corporate community, from the 12,000 volunteers, from the 30,000 different donors we had last year. really remarkable. And I think that's the only way we can solve this is working together. Right?
Yeah, and then the support then for the different programs that you guys have. I think people, I think there's a really good sense from just it's not even about like a marketing thing that you guys have done. You're not really trying to position yourselves in any specific way other than getting the word out for the programs that you have available to people. And I think people have really responded to that. They see the good that you're doing. The Power Packs have been a mainstay of this community. I remember seeing ads. Pete Rose was talking about Power Packs going back in the day. There's just, in terms of discovering meaningful programming, is there sort of a questionnaire list when you're thinking about something new, or you're still trying to get into that mode?
New like me, right? I think we're always looking for innovative ways, right? The world evolves and you have to go with it, right? So, in recent years, it's been more things like home delivery, right? So we have a partnership with Amazon where we call it Freestore Direct, where we put together, really produce and things for folks that can't get out of their homes to go shop, and Amazon will deliver those boxes for us. We're working with them to get more along the lines of food as medicine or grocery as medicine, so that you might have a box of food that's for somebody that has diabetes, or a box of food that has somebody with heart conditions, things like that. And they're looking to help us with that too. So things have changed, but I think our job is to get food out, right? And that is the core of our mission. We want to improve lives by eliminating hunger in partnership with the community. And so, any way we can do that is really it. But it's more than that. So folks that are dealing with hunger often are dealing with other things that poverty would create. So we talk about food, we get food out in all those ways you talked about it, connection, so we can help you get SNAP benefits, right? SNAP benefits are harder to get now, but that makes getting assistance through the application process even more important. So folks that are due those benefits, we help them get there, or Medicaid, or we can produce on site at Liberty Street Market. We can get you a birth certificate, right? Because you need that to get a job, things like that. So really trying to do so food, connection, and then hope would be things like the workforce development programs, right? Both LIFT, which is the warehouse training, and I tell you what, the folks that go through there, they learn how to they get certified on 5 different pieces of equipment and yellow belt training, Six Sigma type stuff. That is remarkable. And
That's crazy.
I feel like my challenge there is I think we could graduate twice as many people and they'd all still be scooped up, right? There's a lot of demand in that space. And then the Cooks program we talked about, obviously we're in the food world, and getting folks in these restaurant skills is fantastic. And there's actually 2 programs there. You talked about the first 9 weeks, which is the basic skills, and the second 9 weeks you get more the early certifications from the American Culinary Federation, so you can go in a restaurant and really be cooking.
Yeah. There's like the more advanced, the 202 course level.
Those up, right.
That's really great. How big of a deal is that new building? Because talking about in that little video that we had there, the LIFT program, like we didn't have room for this at the old space. That's a game changer,
right? And so I'm so appreciative. Kurt Reiber, who was there before me, did amazing things, and the organization grew so much, and that's really the signature achievement. And what it lets you do, right, is have an efficient supply chain. And so what I'm told is before we got into that building, we were doing about 5 million pounds of produce a year. We'll do almost 15 million pounds this year. And so really, not just food, nutritious food. You need cold storage to do it. We have massive cold storage space, and we're, using that for the benefit of the community.
What's one thing about your organization that you are familiar with at this point, but that most people don't realize?
I do think it is that this week we're getting food into these 20 counties, right? I think oftentimes we're seen as very Cincinnati, and we are, right? Hamilton County, but we're serving, 3 counties in Indiana, 9 in Kentucky, and 8 in Ohio. And so the fact that we're supporting folks throughout the whole region really matters.
I think that bit you were talking about with the birth certificate option is that's quite a feature too. Just trying to get people some level of stability in their lives, and if you know that at least the food box is not unchecked, it's at least like, okay, I feel okay about this, then you can springboard into actually taking the reins on stuff.
Stabilization is what we're trying to get people to.
Stabilization.
Yep.
Craig Cassee is the president and CEO of the Freestore Food. Craig, you have been in this position just since March, and I think you specifically said late March.
March 30th.
Well, hey, that was my birthday.
There you go. Happy
because
birthday.
We're adults, and that's an
it.
important stat to bring up amongst people. So how's it been going? I mean, do you know your way around the hallways yet?
I do for the most part, right? I was teasing you before that I give tours sometimes, and people ask me, where does this door go to? I said, let's find out.
That's a fun bit of CEO hazing, making you give the tour.
Exactly. Well, pleased to do it, right? And it's been great. I think, as I mentioned before, that when any new job seems easy till you get into it and you find out some of the details. But great team to work with. We're doing amazing things, and proud of what the team does. In fact, sort of the trickiest part for me is folks want to come and say thank you, and I'm like, I haven't done much yet, but I'll take credit anyway. Kind of thing.
Well, there'll be times down the road when you'll get blamed for something that's not your fault, and you'll just have to take that too. How did all this how did this come to be? You know, I was doing some LinkedIn stalking and I'm looking at your resume. Other than you mentioning your time with Sorta, like you've got a decently long history in not the nonprofit world,
the for-profit
in the
world.
for-profit world, as a lot of people call it.
Yeah. For sure, and I think what's interesting is as you mentioned, we're a large distribution company at the heart of what we're doing, right? And so many of the same skills you need in industry apply here, right? But so, you know, I was a long time here. I came down to Cincinnati from Michigan. Go Blue. That maybe doesn't make me popular, but
Come on, man. Just be cool.
There you go. So I came down with Procter & Gamble years ago.
Yeah.
I worked in the food and beverage division. So maybe that's the tie here. That isn't part of Procter & Gamble anyway. But it was a great experience and learned a lot. And then went through a few different other companies. And always, you know, community involved, intended to be at least. And you know, because I know, right? Maybe I wasn't born on third base, but probably second, and not everybody is. And so we got to work to help folks that need the help and lift them up, right? And so always had that bent. And then I joined a company, Michelman.
I wanted to ask about this because you were there for quite a long time, and they do environmentally friendly packaging,
coatings for packaging, among other things, right? And a great company. And so my mentor there, he would say he's too young to be my mentor, but a gentleman named Steve Schiffman, and really was leading the company at the time, and really driving toward community engagement and the importance, right, for companies to reinvest in their community. And so working there, I got I was encouraged to do community activism. And so when Mayor Crumley asked me to join the Sorta board, they gave me the support to do it. And so, I was there for a long time and was able to see the impact that, that you can have by, doing good work in the community, right? Sort of gets people to education, healthcare, quality of life type events. So, and many of the same neighbors that come to the Freestore. So, learn from that, and then continued to look. And I got into this world. Really, it's interesting. Steve's wife Julie was one of the three founders of Last Mile Food Rescue.
Gotcha.
And so, as I had kind of retired after whatever it was, 8 years as COO at Michelman, I was looking to fill some time and give back and do some things. And so Julie had asked me to get involved a little bit with some consulting for them on a couple of things. And then I started doing deliveries for Last Mile, right, rescuing food and dropping it off, and really kind of learning what that meant. And then from there started talking to other folks, La Soup and Freestore, and things about, hey, how does this all fit together? And realizing that, everyone's doing great work individually, and can we do even better work together? And so when Kurt announced that he was leaving, I talked to a couple of the board members that I knew through my other, time in the community, and 6 months later, it was quite a task to get through that interviewing process, but they decided to take a chance on me.
I think that's really remarkable. The idea that you had been working in the for-profit world and then you said retired, right? You were just doing things to fill your time to help people, and now that's a pretty wild pivot now into being the CEO of the Freestore.
Yeah. I guess so,
That's
right?
pretty wild.
My wife says I failed at retirement, but so honored to do it, humbled really for the opportunity. And you talked about, this is really a signature nonprofit and the work we've done so long. And I was saying before, I'm a little bashful when folks say, thank you for all the work you've done, because I haven't done it so much. But great team. And my job is to make sure they continue to be in a position where they can be successful, and that we can really work together with the community, other folks in this food security ecosystem to improve the lives of the folks in the tri-state. You mentioned in your LinkedIn page that supply chain management is considered to be one of your top skills. Is that from Michelman, or is that from someplace else? It's one of my top experiences. Skills is a whole different question. But so no, at Sun Chemical. I didn't really talk about my time there. That's a company based in New Jersey, but quite a large presence here. I helped build the supply chain network for them globally. I would think that experience had to really go into absolutely right. So all these things really help, and it's an interesting challenge, because we I don't know the best way to say it. If you're delivering food to an industrial site, they're open all day, every day, 20. A lot of the pantries we're working with are only open 2 or 3 days a week, or certain hours, because they're relying on volunteers too. And so there's real complexity here. And then a lot of the we talked about. I think you showed a graphic that showed we get donated food, rescued food, government food, and then purchased food. And we have a lot of flexibility with the non-government food. But the government food adds a whole bunch of complexity. As you imagine, we're appreciative of it. We're thrilled to do it. but there's paperwork involved, right? And so this is the Indiana peanut butter, this is the Ohio peanut butter. So there's some complexities about how you're trying to move things around.
Was that a surprise to you when you moved into this position, having to juggle state regulations, like you said? Because if Indiana's giving you peanut butter, that they don't want that going to someplace else. That's
right.
taxpayer peanut butter.
I guess surprised by the complexity it adds. I shouldn't have been because I knew we were covering those things. But it's and again, thrilled to do it. Appreciative of all the help, but it just adds complexity to what we're doing.
What is it like for you two coming into this position? You mentioned Kurt Reiber, who had been in the role for more than a decade, right? 15 years. And the Freestore Foodbank saw tremendous growth during that period, going from like 5 million to 30 million as far as that might just be in meals served. I'm not even sure.
Yeah, no, so kind of triple the amount of food that was being provided. Yep. No, did an amazing job.
Does that represent like big shoes to fill for you? Is that a big opportunity? Is that a chance to bring in a different perspective? What does picking up where he left off mean for you?
Yeah, maybe all those things, right? I joke with Kurt was great, and he's been very supportive of me. I appreciate it. And it's funny you use the phrase "big shoes to fill." He's much taller than me, so his shoes are literally bigger. But the number of times people have told me, you have big shoes to fill, and they're right. But I was laughing at his retirement party as I was walking up the podium, and one of my first lines was, "I have big shoes to fill." Someone literally told me as I was walking up, "Hey, you have really big shoes to fill." So I keep reminding that I do, and I had told Kurt if he could mess a few things up, it would have been easier for me, But he did an amazing job, and so I think. But we're launching from here on, and so all the good work we've done, right? We're, we want to eliminate poverty. We want to, get everyone the food that they deserve. But the challenge is getting harder, even despite all the good work we've done, right?
Speaking of the challenge, we talked about the challenges of operating such a complex organization and how the need apparently is still growing. Things like inflation, we've talked about it on this show. The cost of living, the cost of food is going up.
Yep.
It's becoming more challenging. What does that mean for you as an organization? How do those challenges trickle down to you as far as, is it mostly affecting donations? Is it affecting the way that your different partners are able to supply you? What are the big challenges that you're dealing with right now at this top?
Yeah, so certainly, as food's gotten more expensive and dollars have gotten constrained a little bit, we get less food than we used to from the government. Also, as we're buying food, right, it's more expensive, so same dollar doesn't give you as much food as it used to. And so certainly working hard to make sure we can get, all the donated and rescued food, both stuff we manage ourselves and with partners like Last Mile. We're, the soup and everybody else doing all those things together. So it gets harder, and so you're relying on donations, right? And luckily, the community's been very supportive of us, and I think we have to keep earning that support every day, right? But the challenge is, if you look at the beautiful new building, right? Major capital campaign for that, and we certainly appreciate everyone that did that. And most of the major, companies helped us with that. But it's the day-to-day that every day there's, more food to be bought and more, that costs you. So it's an ongoing thing, and so the needs continue to grow.
Well, and in terms of how important the donations are, I think this is a point that it's so important for people to understand. As much as folks may want to give you cans from the back of their cabinet, it's really about money donations, right? Because the connections you have and the organizations that you're working with, you guys have a catchphrase about like $1 is worth three or
meals.
Feeds three meals.
Yeah.
$1 gets 3 meals because of the way your organization is set up.
Right.
That's a huge thing when every nickel really counting, and as much as maybe here's a jug of milk, thanks a lot, but can we just talk about?
Yeah, no, and it's great when folks do that.
Yeah.
Milk's a little trickier because it's it's harder to keep for a long time. But we appreciate food drives, right? I really do. And so, but the challenge gets to be if you're thinking about how we're distributing and trying to move large quantities. We're moving pallets full of cans of beans, whatever. When you get 3 of these and 4 of those, it's kind of harder to manage. Folks, even for our pantry partners to order online, any food we get, we love it, we appreciate it, and we'll get it to folks, but we can sort of do it more efficiently with dollars.
Yeah, you guys can make that dollar go a lot farther on that.
Yeah.
That's really, really tremendous work. What is your thought looking ahead? So many people want to know about everything that came before and how you feel about that. But in terms of charting a path, is it about finding new avenues? Is it about just keeping up with the demand? Do you have sort of a vision for the next 5 years for the Freestore?
Well, I do. I think we need to keep doing what we're doing in many respects, right? A lot of good programs. We need to continue to focus on the food side of things, right? We're doing a lot of other things that matter. But food is the heart of what we're doing. And I do think what we really need to do is as other folks are in this ecosystem with us, how do we cooperate to get more out and really focus the efforts on the neighbors that are in need. And I think also, we have these 600 pantry partners that are amazing. How do we help lift them up more, right? Can we have, you had Ken Tracy on, right? So amazing what they do at Impacting Tomorrow. There's only one of those in these 20 counties. Does there need to be 10? Right? Can we do more for folks by working together and expanding what we do? And I want to lift up and support all the folks that are helping. But it's interesting, a lot of the nonprofits where folks have been doing this for 30, 40 years, right? Some of those folks are sort of aging out of being able to help, right? And so what comes after that, and how do we help them survive and grow and, work together?
That's another challenge. And the idea, rising tide raises all boats, right? Being able to partner, it's not a competition, it's a cooperation. That's really great. Craig Cassee is the relatively new president and CEO of the Freestore Foodbank. They've got Taste of the Bengals, a big fundraiser coming up in just a week. There are still maybe a couple tickets available for that, depending on when you're watching this video. And then in 2 weeks is Riverfest. That's with the Rubber Duck Regatta. Buy a duck, feed a child. Check it all out, freestorefoodbank.org. That's the website. An organization that's doing a tremendous amount of good work in the tri-state area, not just in one city. 20 counties, millions of people getting help, millions of meals being served to a lot of folks in need. Freestore Foodbank. Craig, thanks very much for coming on.